To a lot of people, cryptocurrencies are just a new buzzword. Some fad that was an inevitable part of nerd culture. They don't know the details. Bitcoin's a program? It's some kind of digital money. Criminals use it to buy drugs. Probably. Whatever it is, all the investing veterans say it's a scam, and you'd be a fool to invest, so why bother? But do all those investing veterans really just want to keep me from throwing my money at a scam? Or do they have some other motive? After all, there has to be something to this Bitcoin stuff if it draws the interest of so many. Or is it just the temptation of getting rich quick? We all know what they say about opinions and who has them, but when it comes to Bitcoin, it seems like there's no middle ground to be had. Except you'll usually find that the truth lies somewhere in between. But before we can delve into what Bitcoin is and how it works, we first need to figure out what problems it was created to solve. So let's take a look at what the creator of Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto, had to say about it in his white paper, which is the technical document describing what Bitcoin is and how it works. Commerce on the internet has come to rely almost exclusively on financial institutions serving as trusted third parties to process electronic payments. While the system works well enough for most transactions, it still suffers from the inherent weaknesses of the trust-based model. The cost of mediation increases transaction costs. With the possibility of reversal, the need for trust spreads. Merchants must be wary of their customers. A certain percentage of fraud is accepted as unavoidable. These costs and payment uncertainties can be avoided in person by using physical currency, but no mechanism exists to make payments over a communications channel without a trusted party. So to paraphrase, if you want to transact online, you and the person you're dealing with both have to trust the bank. And you have to pay for the privilege too. Now at this point you're probably thinking, wait a minute, I thought Bitcoin was all about anonymity and dodging taxes and overthrowing the government. No. When Satoshi Nakamoto first dreamed up Bitcoin, it was born from a healthy distrust of banks and the understanding that the old way of doing things didn't really work that well online. Based on the language used in the white paper, you could assume that Bitcoin was never meant to become its own currency and overthrow the financial system. It's just a method of transacting online without a middleman. But of course, things didn't stay that way. Once the white paper was released, a small community of people formed around it, and their imaginations ran wild with the potential that they saw in Bitcoin. After all, banks are one of the cornerstones of the modern economic machine. If you can cut them out of the picture, that changes things. So why stop at circumventing them online? These days, I don't even have cash. I just carry my card, which means that every purchase I make requires the oversight and cooperation of my bank and the bank for whomever I'm dealing with. And wouldn't you know it, that's exactly the situation that Bitcoin was meant to bypass. So what are the goals of the Bitcoin community now that it's become more than just a method of transacting online without supervision? Well, while there are many different features that are valued, requested, and being developed right now, the biggest priorities are decentralization, anonymity, security, and speed. So decentralization is fairly in line with the original intention of Bitcoin, except that it no longer applies to just banks. Any group or individual having too much control over a cryptocurrency is generally seen as a bad thing. There are some big cryptocurrencies that don't value decentralization as much, like Ripple, for instance, but the larger crypto community will insist on its importance, and there's been no shortage of controversy around it. One of the most important aspects around Bitcoin Cash and its split from Bitcoin was about decentralization. Critics argued that larger block sizes would necessitate more powerful machines to support the network. This would lead to fewer people being able to support and run the network, which would reduce decentralization. Ultimately, Bitcoin would never end up increasing its block sizes at all in the name of decentralization. Anonymity has become one of the most important features that a cryptocurrency can offer. At a glance, one might say that transactions on a public ledger couldn't possibly be anonymous. But for the purposes of privacy and theft aversion, anonymity is very important, and developers have devised several clever methods of achieving it. Most cryptocurrencies achieve anonymity by using large sets of linked addresses. The main focus of Monero, which is a very popular currency, is anonymity, which it achieves using several unique methods. The importance of security is obvious, but some methods of keeping a public ledger are less secure than others. One of the main criticisms proof-of-stake currencies face is that they're thought to be less secure than proof-of-work currencies, a criticism that holds some truth. Any service that's offered over the web needs to be able to resist attacks from those who might attack it. If a currency could be rendered useless by something as simple as a DDoS attack or hackers, it would be completely unreliable and effectively worthless. Most currencies avoid these situations through some simple economic solutions and a healthy dose of decentralization. But when it comes to keeping your money safe, there's always room for improvement. Lastly, speed has become a selling point for the change toward cryptocurrencies. In general, any transaction in crypto is several orders of magnitude faster than a traditional transaction through banks, which can take several business days to process, or can process quickly for a hefty fee like a money wire. A transaction can be seen as soon as it's broadcast over any cryptocurrency network. And while it's true that a transaction hasn't truly occurred until it's been placed into a block, a transaction with a high enough fee will be placed into a block without issue. Just the same, several methods have been proposed to increase the speed of transactions even further, like the Lightning Network, which would effectively make transactions instantaneous, at least between you and your merchant. Of the retailers and exchanges that accept cryptocurrencies today, most won't accept a transaction until it's been placed into a block, and several blocks have been mined after it. While this is certainly the most secure way to handle a transaction, and indeed, it is much faster than the process of verification underwent by the banking system, it appears slow and clunky when compared to the seemingly instantaneous transactions facilitated by credit cards. The last point I want to make as to why cryptocurrencies are something we need and they aren't just a solution without a problem is that cryptocurrencies are effectively a political statement. They represent a method for people to control their own funds, effectively their own destiny, their own economic status, without the permission or oversight of an authoritative party. They're anti-establishment, but without being left or right. They're both libertarian and communicative, rejecting the dictation of institutions and instead being the unbiased collective property of those who use it. They were created from a desire to liberate oneself from the confines of monetary rules that weren't necessarily created for our benefit, and propagated from a desire to wrest power from the hands of a few and distribute it among the many. So there you have it. That's both my explanation as to why cryptocurrencies are important and you should try to understand them, and it's the first part of my explanation as to how they work. After all, if you don't know what problems they're trying to solve, you're not going to understand how they're working to try and solve them. Please leave any questions or criticisms in the comments below. If you thought this video was valuable, leave a like. And if you'd like to see future episodes where I'll continue my explanation as to how cryptocurrencies work, subscribe.